Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second LinkedIn audio event. This is part of the World PR Day 2024, spearheaded by and celebrated as a festival in Ghana by Global Media Alliance to bring together the best minds in public relations and communications. So, for those of you who this is your first time joining this live, I'm going to give you a bit of concept. Every year on July 16th, the world celebrates and recognizes public relations and communications and their contribution to the growth and development of diverse fields. It is a day when industry professionals come together to have a unified global agenda for improving the world's understanding and utilization of public relations. So, for this year's World PR Day Festival, we'll include a series of virtual conversations, masterclasses, and slash events from now all the way to July, when we'll climax everything with a summit for a celebration. For tonight's conversation, it will be an hour-long interactive session with a question and answer session as well. My name is Bridget Kwesimete. I work with Publicis West Africa, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for today's panel discussion. The topic for today is critical to any PR campaign, to every PR professional and students. Our topic of discussion today is PR measurement and return on investment. So, public relations, we all know, is an ever evolving field. And in today's data driven world, as we professional students and enthusiasts, we must be able to measure the impact of our PR efforts and demonstrate tangible returns on investments. From traditional media metrics to advanced digital analytics, our tools and techniques to gauge our effectiveness have never been more sophisticated or essential. But with so many metrics and methods at our disposal, how do we determine which ones truly matter? How can we ensure our PR strategies resonate with our target audience? But most importantly, how can we convincingly prove the value of our PR initiatives to stakeholders and decision makers? Tonight, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts who will help us navigate these questions and share their insights on the best practices, some of the challenges we face, the future, and trends in PR measurements and return on investments. So come along with us, whether you're a seasoned professional or a new person to the industry. Today's discussion promises to provide valuable takeaways you can apply to your work, to your studies, and I dare say to your life. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to proceed by introducing our panelists for today. We have three very great panelists. They are from different aspects of the industry. They've done great work. And today I am pleased to be here to hear them out and pick a few things to add to my portfolio of knowledge on PR. Our first panelist is Emeka. Emeka, my leader. Emeka is an integrated strategy director at Publicis West Africa. He does strategy for Central and Western Africa under the Publicis Group. Emeka is an award-winning integrated strategist. He has extensive experience working across agencies. He has worked across industries including FMCGs, banking, insurance, tobacco, healthcare, and nonprofits. VOD for some brands such as MTN, Stanbic Bank, Prime Video, Spotify, Heineken, Nivea, Philip Morris, Amstel Malta, to name a few. Emeka is great. Emeka is currently the Integrated Strategy Director at Central and Western Africa for Publicis Group. Our second panelist is Michaela van der Merwe. Michaela is a Senior Client Acquisition Consultant at Meltwater Africa. And if you're a PR professional or a PR student, or you've heard anything PR before, Meltwater just rings a bell. She is a SaaS specialist who has been building solutions for clients for 6 years now across the insurance and now MarTech industry. She has helped various teams leverage the power of AI and scale digital transformations and assist companies in harnessing data, using this data to drive their overall strategy and growth within their markets. She has a strong understanding of how data can be used to better inform corporate decision making, including competitive intelligence, consumer insights, audience segmentation, trend spotting, industry insights, and measuring organizational performance. Michaela is currently a senior client acquisition consultant at Meltwater Africa. Last but definitely not the least, it's our very own Josephine Apia Nyamiche Sani. Josephine is an award-winning communications practitioner credited with cutting-edge communication strategies across Africa. Believe me, if you know Josephine, I've never met anybody who works in PR and is so data and numbers focused. Her expertise includes strategic communication, data analysis and visualization, stakeholder engagement, government relations, media relations, digital public relations, and issues and crisis management. She's currently the acting director of communications, and she leads the creation of compelling strategies and audiovisual content to boost Afrobarometer's visibility. On this premise, tonight's discussion will seek to delve into the various ways PR practitioners can measure their efforts and present significant returns on investments for their clients. I dare say that the hardest conversation you can have as a PR professional is having return on investment measurement conversations with either your boss, your CEO, or your client. And it's always difficult, especially when you don't know the tools you have available to you. So I'm going to delve right into the questions so that we can kickstart this conversation today. My first question goes to Michaela. And Michaela, hi. If you can hear me, kindly wave. Yes, thank you, thank you. So, Michaela, how significant is the relationship between the measurement of our public relations campaigns and return on investment? And how do you determine the return on investment on a PR initiative?
Thank you so much for the question. It's possibly something I'm the most passionate about. I think it is incredibly relevant because I think any marketing comms PR professional knows how difficult it is at the end of every year to motivate for more budget or sometimes even the same amount of budget. So this comes down to absolutely proving that your efforts were worth what they were worth in monetary value. I think when we're looking at PR campaigns and ROI, it's something that people are often confused how to put something that you do and put out there for the public. How do you translate this into a metric that your CFO will understand? So in terms of measuring this, I think first and foremost where some companies get stuck or some PR professionals get stuck is they're not really sure what their strategy is when it comes to measuring. So you can measure qualitatively or quantitatively, and that's dependent on your department that you're in. It's dependent on your industry. It's dependent on your experience, what your company wants to do and where they want to go. So once you've determined if you want to do qualitative or quantitative, I think it's important to understand that you are going to need a social listening or media monitoring tool in order to determine your baseline. And then once you have your baseline, when you launch your campaign or your PR efforts, you'll be able to then understand what the outcome of these efforts were. In terms of really providing an ROI, the difficult number that it is to provide, there are formulas. So something that we use is the value of your PR outcomes. So what you get from your PR campaign, you then subtract the cost of those PR inputs and you come up with a value. And then you proceed to divide that by the cost of your PR inputs. That's my way of doing it in a very technical, mathematical way. But if you do have a tool in place, the tool can also provide key metrics, which we'll touch on a little bit later, that can assist the team in absolutely putting forward values that you can then report on month after month or campaign after campaign.
Awesome. Thank you, Michaela. My second question goes to Emeka. For our audience, thank you. I need to add that we're really grateful you joined us this evening. I hope that you get you get to learn a lot from here today that you can add to your practice, to your studies, to your life. Thank you for coming on board. The next question goes to Emeka. Emeka, how do you attribute specific outcomes to PR efforts amidst other marketing activities? We can't hear you. Emeka, can you hear us? I think Emeka is having challenges with his audio. Okay. You know what, Emeka, I'll circle back to you and then jump onto Josephine. So please hold on while we sort out your audio issues. Thank you very much. Hi, Josephine.
Hi, Bridget. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for being with us today. And I can't wait for all the people who are hearing you for the first time to experience just how much you love these numbers.
Sure.
And she's great at it too. So this is not just pressure. How important is qualitative data in PR measurements, and how do you incorporate it into your PR analysis?
Okay. So um, I'm usually a quantitative person. You always hear me talking about data, and because Afrobarometer is mainly like a quantitative kind of research, we usually do a lot of numbers talking. But today, I'll probably be doing less of that. But I'm actually glad Michaela mentioned that the data could be either quantitative or qualitative. And I always preach that, I mean, to get the best outcome when you're measuring PR efforts, you actually need both. So, Bridget, permit me to go back like one step and talk a
Sure.
bit about qualitative and quantitative data and when to use what, because sometimes some PR practitioners confuse the two and they don't know when to use them. So, just briefly, I just want to talk about both and then I'll move on to your question. So we start with quantitative. So quantitative analysis usually focuses on the what. So what happened, how many people are aware of the product or initiative that you launched, what's the percentage that considered the brand after all your campaign efforts, what's the percentage, for instance, of your brand voice compared to your competitors, how much awareness were you able to create, I mean, the amount you spent and then the profits that you made, how much media attention did you get, what was the media coverage? All these things are talking about what. And most of the time with the quantitative data, we try to analyze them by the quantity. So then we work with the numbers, the statistics, the percentages, all those things that I love doing. And then we try to explore the facts and then measure, the outcome using numbers. And then if you love doing data analysis, then that's when you put them in those graphs and trends and infographics and all that. And usually,
Okay.
as PR people, how do we even collect this kind of quantitative data? Michaela has talked about the kind of analysis that you can get with Meltwater, and we subscribe to Meltwater, and they give us really amazing insights. Some of the analytics that we usually look at in our work includes like the user and page growth, user engagement, first-time visitors, downloads for the various publications. So at the end of the month, we're able to measure which one was the most popular, and then we're even able to see the website demographics. So which country or continent visits websites most often and all that. Now there is Meltwater, which we pay for. Um, Great stuff, but if you're on a budget, there are some other free tools that you can use, like the Tag Manager, Google Looker, or Google Analytics, and those are free. Right. Now let's move on to the qualitative data. Now, unlike the quantitative data that deals with numbers and percentages, the qualitative data fundamentally measures things by the quality instead of the quantity. And it usually focuses on the why, right? So we basically try to analyze feelings, thoughts, perceptions, and try to understand the motivations behind certain behaviors. So that's why I always preach that after getting your numbers, it's usually great to probe deeper and find out why some things are the way they are. And that is when qualitative analysis comes in. And with the qualitative analysis, like I said, you can't use numbers, right? But so I'm also going to list some of the ways that we can collect some of this qualitative data. Your news desk analysis, your media coverage analysis, going beyond just counting the number of publications you got. So actually reading and then finding out the sentiments behind the publications. I mean, now there are even AI tools that you can use to determine that. You can organize focus group discussions. You know, you pick a cross section of your target audience, and then you have a discussion with them to get a deeper understanding of their expectations and feelings, you know, towards the activity or your brand. And then you can also use surveys. So for quantitative analysis, for quantitative data, we use surveys, but with closed-ended questions. So you actually give them the possible answers and stuff to choose from. But the thing with the qualitative is that the questions are open-ended, and then you leave them to say whatever they want to say, and then you transcribe and analyze. And then there are some times that um, you can just do unstructured interviews. So after you rolled out that staff engagement, staff campaign, maybe there was a green campaign that you did in-house, encouraging people to go green, so to segregate the rubbish and all that. You did all the posters and all that. On your way out of work, you can have an informal conversation with the security man to find out if he really understood the campaign. What were his expectations? Does he want something more to be done? You know, these are all these are like informal ways of getting feedback on the kind of work that you've done. Sometimes it's just by observing, you know, sometimes you can just go sit in the cafeteria and observe how your staff members are reacting, or sometimes you can even eavesdrop on some of their conversations, and that gives a very interesting feedback. I mean, very interesting insight. Or even in the community, you can just go there as a normal person and observe before maybe you decide to do your CSR, or even after whatever intervention, you can just go there and observe. And these also give very interesting insight. Case studies. You can look at what someone else did somewhere and learn from it. And then I've already talked about sentiment analysis, general feedback from stakeholders, and sometimes just keeping journals or keeping records are also a very great way of gathering qualitative data. I think about collecting policies, sometimes it's a bit expensive and time consuming, but I think it provides very valuable insights that when you add to your quantitative data can help a lot in your PR measurements. Now, to your question, Bridget, sorry I've wasted so much time on that, but I just needed to clarify the difference. So, um, usually when we talk about data, I think the first thing that comes to people's mind is quantitative measures. After all, I mean, when it comes to measurements, we're always thinking numbers and the things that can be counted. But like I've said, I mentioned earlier, I think qualitative data gives us insights and context that you would otherwise not find in the numbers alone. And for me, I think that's what makes it very valuable for PR measurements. And it also helps you to understand why. The why that is driving the audience, the stakeholders' response, the why that is driving the stakeholders' refusal, maybe to comply to something that you are proposing. And it's really when we gain a deeper understanding of what our stakeholders' thought processes and their biases that we're able to better shape the narrative, better shape our messages, and improve on the delivery. I remember just recently in one of my catch-up sessions with one of my mentees, he was lamenting about how his organization's social media page is not growing. And then I asked them where they are. He said they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're doing all these videos and all this great stuff, but people are not engaging. Now, this organization actually, so their primary stakeholders are young people, people in the university and fresh graduates. So why is this young friend of mine not on TikTok? Why is
Yep.
he engaging on Twitter? What are you doing on Facebook? Facebook is for my father and his retired friends, you know. So I showed him data, quantitative data, that shows that obviously you are at the wrong place. You need to be on TikTok. Even Instagram now is a bit old for these people, right? But
Yeah.
also, in addition to that, I was like, in order to package content that will resonate with these people, you need to understand them. You need to be
Yeah.
young at heart. This young man, he's
Yeah.
young, but sometimes he looks like grown ups like us. So I was like, listen, you need to organize a focus group. It's a cross section of the target. Get to
Yeah.
understand them. That's the only way you can learn to produce content that um, would help. I mean, would be engaging enough that they would want to engage with and share. You know, so this is one instance where we use both. He can use both quantitative data and
Mhm.
qualitative data to enhance his work as a PR person. There's also
Yeah.
this really funny story that I heard some time ago. So there's a village that was struggling with water scarcity. And then, so the children had to travel like to a village nearby to fetch water. So a company went there, oh, they have water issues, CSR, let's give them a borehole. So they did a
Yeah.
very nice borehole. They came back coming to analyze their impact and they found out that the borehole had been destroyed. And they
Yep.
were like, why? So an informal interview, I mean, interviews with some of the adults in the community revealed that actually the adults preferred it when the children had to travel long distances to fetch water because that gave them enough intimate time with their spouses. So the borehole sort of came to spoil their connection. They didn't want the borehole, you know. So sometimes the numbers alone don't
Yeah.
work. You really need to probe deeper, and that's when like the qualitative
Get in there.
analysis helps. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you leave me, you know I'll
Okay.
talk forever. So let me end here.
Ah, thank you, Josephine. So before I go back to Emeka, I would say this. If you're an entry level PR person, if you're somebody who has been in PR for a very long time, and all of this sounds like Greek to you, please, you're not alone. And do not feel shy to pen down your questions for the Q&A session, because I know that short of ear hustling your colleagues or your staff when they're talking to get more information, honing your skills in qualitative and quantitative data analysis is crucial to the development of your career. So please write down your questions. Do not hesitate to ask them when we get to the Q&A session. And yes, Michaela, Josephine, Emeka will answer your questions. Thank you very much. Hi, Emeka. Hi, Emeka. Can you hear us now? Oh, I'm so sorry. It's still crickets from Emeka. Okay. Okay. All right. So I think that would have to Excuse Emeka once again. So sorry. We'll definitely get back to Emeka, but I would have to continue the session with the next person while we sort him out. Thank you very much for your patience. So I go back to Michaela. What are the key metrics you use to measure the success of a PR campaign? So, for instance, whether it's internal initiative, external initiatives for clients, what are some of the? Hi, Michaela. Please, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Yes.
It's
So,
always
yes. Thank you.
Thanks. It's always an interesting one because sometimes I'm hesitant to tell people what the metrics are. I think people can get carried away with the metrics and want to run and measure each and everything, especially if you have a tool that does it for you. So I was thinking about, do I list them all or do I just throw out one or two? But if anyone's interested in them all, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. But I'm only going to list one or two because otherwise we get a bit stuck. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, I think something that's really important to understand is your target market when it comes to these KPIs. And I think working in a global organization, we get to see what PR marketing comms looks like across several different markets. And specifically in West Africa and even just in Africa in general, print and broadcast media is still very relevant. So if you're looking at print and broadcast, your AVE is always going to be your bread and butter. It's the one metric that everyone always refers back to. So I'm not sure what everyone's understanding is, so I thought I would just delve into a little bit. But AVE is your advertising value equivalency. So this looks at your actual publication. The publications will actually give you an understanding of what the amount of money was that you made back on this publication. So if you're going to post on the bottom right-hand corner of the 8th page, or you're going to have the main article on the front page, it's going to have different viewership. And that obviously leads to more people either buying your product or viewing your product, etc. If we're going to look at social, which is obviously where everyone is trying to move towards in terms of digital transformation, we tend to look at something called earned media value, your EMV. And this looks a lot more at things like your reach, your impressions, your engagement, all of the juicy metrics that we look at on social. I think what's really important to understand here, again, as Josephine also alluded to, is your strategy and what you're looking at in terms of quality or quantity. So we can measure things like sentiment. We can measure things like share of voice. It all depends on your strategy. I think something that we see a lot, if it's Pan-African or maybe global, is you really want to break things down per region. So maybe look at your share of voice per region or your exposure per region. And then if you have the type of tools that can do this for you, what is very interesting, and again, what links up with what Josephine said, is know what your exposure is or your reach is per media type, what your sentiment is per platform. If you're able to understand that as much as what the old people are on Facebook, that's where people go to complain or to find out what they like. Twitter is very similar. Everyone loves ranting on Twitter. Nobody loves raving on Twitter. So sometimes it's a matter of also understanding where your audience is. And once you know that, it's easier for you to understand what metrics you should be tracking. I think, lastly, the most important thing for me is that I think on our platform now, we have about 9 different reporting templates and over 60 metrics. And that's not needed for everyone. So pick out what is important for you in your industry and your vision of your growth mission or your strategy for the year, and then get an understanding of what is the baseline of those metrics and how are you improving. And then once you start with that, you're able to then put realistic goals into place and what we always refer to as SMART goals, so measurable, attainable, realistic, and then look to improve on that year on year. Even incorporating things like Google Analytics, website traffic, clicks to the website. There are so many different metrics, but I think it's important to not get into analysis paralysis and look at everything, but rather pick out the 5 or 6 or 10 that mean the most to you and that are the easiest and also most affordable to track. in your industry and then move forward that way.
Hello, Emeka. Can you hear us? Uh, okay. Hi, Josephine. Um, I hope you guys can hear me because I think Bridget has lost her connection. Okay, great. So, Josephine, okay, Emeka is back. Emeka, can you hear us? Okay, Josephine, so what roles does what we normally call sentiment analysis play in evaluating like a PR impact, basically?
Okay. So sentiment analysis, what's that? Um, I think so. Usually, we're always like keen on monitoring who is talking about us, who is liking us, who is sharing our engaging with our messaging. But I think one of the things that we don't often do is to find out what they are saying about us. Is it good stuff, negative, or they are just mentioning us? And that's basically what sentiment analysis is about, determining the emotions behind what is being said about you, either in the traditional media or online. And I remember in my previous life in a comms agency, Bridges and I know that's life. Um, about like a decade ago or so, we would have to read the entire news article or, comb through social media manually to, first of all, find out what is being said, but also determine the emotions behind it. And then we have to plot all that in a graph and all that for our clients at the end of the week or month, depending on what we were supposed to do. But now with AI, you can actually get these things done in real time. And I think it's one of the things that Meltwater, for instance, provides for us. And so we just really rely on them for that. But so I mentioned positive, negative, neutral. What's that? I'm just going to give some examples for those who probably are not familiar with this. So positive, I'm going to use this program we're having, and I know most of you are tweeting. Are you tweeting? If you're not, please tweet and tag us. So we could say that, oh, this program is so enlightening. I've learned so much. I can't wait to start implementing these ideas in my PR work. That's positive, obviously, right? And then the negative can be, this program is so boring. Why did I even sign up for this? Clearly negative. And then there could be the neutral one. That's like neither positive nor negative. You're just being mentioned. So then you can say, oh, the Global Media Alliance organized a discussion on PR measurements. And then it ends there. Now, why is it important to analyze sentiments of some of these mentioned? And here, I'm not really going to just limit it to measuring impact, but the importance of doing these things before, during, and even after your campaign. The first thing, and I think I've said that already, is it provides real time feedback. So you get to know how people feel about you, about your messaging, your comms efforts. And then you can also use that to determine how people feel about the particular issue that you want to start developing um, your campaign strategy on. So maybe if you want to talk about what's happening now, maybe Galamsey, right? You want to start some sort of advocacy work about Galamsey. You can just really find out what is being said, but also use AI or any of these tools to find out people's views about Galamsey, what people feel about it, and that will help you shape whatever strategy that you want to put together. Personally, when I was in agency, I wasn't particularly only particularly interested in public sentiments about my clients and my institutions. But I was also very interested in what people thought about our competitors. And so I was very deliberate about analyzing sentiments about competitors. And that also gave me valuable insights. And it helped me, monitoring. So it wasn't just monitoring about the clients, but it was monitoring for the competitors as well. And that helped with my strategies for the clients, because then you'd know your enemy's weak points, and then you use that to sort of advise your clients. And then, so the second point is when you get to know this in real time, you're also able to act quickly. So, you know, you have a campaign going on and you are monitoring people's sentiments about your messages, about whatever products, the initiative. You are able to adjust your communication status if the sentiments are not too great, right? Even in the middle of the campaign. And I always advise comms practitioners to monitor throughout the campaign, before you start, during the campaign, and at the end. Don't just wait till the end before you start monitoring. Otherwise, you miss a lot of very insightful data that could have helped you make your campaign better. And I think I'm digressing a bit, so I'm going to come back to I'm going to focus. But thirdly, and I think that ties into the second point, is that it helps you pick up issues and mitigate them a lot faster before they turn into crisis. So if you're constantly monitoring and you realize that no, in the past week or in the past few days, you've been getting quite a lot of negative sentiments, maybe about your brand, about a product, about an issue, you're able to pick it up quickly, find a solution to it engage whoever is unhappy before it becomes a full blown crisis. Now, beyond that, it also helps you measure what people feel about not only your brand, but about people who are related to your brand. So, for instance, I would want to know how people feel about my CEO and my board chair and some key people that we positioned as influencers for the brand in-house. But beyond that, also people that you probably want to engage as influencers. And how does your target feel about that particular person that you're planning to engage as an influencer? Some of these sentiment analysis can help you. But I also need to flag that sometimes when it comes to this sentiment analysis, it can be a bit tricky, especially depending on your industry and the kind of work you do. So I'm going to use my organization as an example. And because I will tell you that usually when we get a sentiment analysis, there's always far more negative stuff than positive. But it doesn't mean that we are doing anything bad. We're actually a very good organization. We're not doing anything bad, but it's just because of the voices that we amplify. Our work basically is to conduct research about Africa's views on governance, economic issues, a host of things that affect their everyday lives, and make it public and tell policymakers that this is what Africans expect. These are their experiences and evaluations. And in the past few years, we realized that most of the data that we get are negative. The Africans are not happy with a lot of things. And it gets a lot of traction. So when we put it out in the media or social media and stuff, people report about it. And so, for instance, just recently we put out something that says that um, Africans' views on economic conditions are actually getting gloomier, right? And so when we put that out, and then there's like media reports and all that, then it sort of picks on the negative stories that we ourselves have put out. And then it comes out to say that, okay, we are getting negative audience sentiment. So it's very important, even when you get these kind of data, to dig deeper and sort of carefully consider the nuances that are involved. Otherwise, you might panic and think that you're doing something bad. But it's really important that even after you get this data, you yourself, you apply the context and, look at the nuances and then make better informed decisions.
Thank you so much, Josephine. I think we can hear Emeka now, so we're going all the way to the front to let Emeka join the conversation with us. Just a minute, please. Hi, Emeka. Please, can you hear us now?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yay, Emeka has joined the conversation. Thank you so much.
Great. I'm glad you can hear me now.
Okay. So, just very quickly, how do you attribute specific outcomes to PR efforts and amidst other marketing activities? That's your first question, Emeka.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that question. It's been painful struggling with the internet in this part of the continent, but it happens. But yes, I think a lot of these conversations have also been had. But just to add to that, just to answer your question, I think PR on the continent in this region is a discipline that always had that history of measurement, right? It's always the client asking, how am I getting value? What exactly are you doing? And how do I really attribute that to my sales, right? But the challenge is, especially from a brand perspective, is most of the time the role of PR actually is in direct sales, right? Because people are not, reading your coverage or reading your content with that purchase intent, at that point in time, right? So it's also critical to constantly educate, clients about the role of PR, and then looking at how to then attribute that investment alongside other marketing activities. A recent example with one of the brands I was managing is the brand hasn't really invested in PR for so long, and all of a sudden there's the relevance to do that, wondering, okay, how do I measure? How do I ensure that I can really track or, attribute my efforts differently from other things that I'm currently doing? So for me, the first thing I would say would be really to be clear on what your objective is, right? Because when you have that clarity, then, it helps you have a picture of what success looks like, right? So, for example, if your goal is to increase awareness, for example, that you're going to be looking more at metrics like impressions or mentions, or even traffic to your website, for example, right? So really being clear on what the objective is really helps you even know what exactly to look out for, when you're thinking of where that investment is going. And also, another way is also using an analytics tool, which Michaela, I'm sure, already drives, and it's a very popular approach that is also used around here by most brands, because that way you have a specific way that you can mention that you can measure. I think Josephine also talked about research, and I think that is also very critical, because with surveys or focus groups or however model you're using, is really easier to get that direct insight from users or from customers, and and understand also how their perspective or their perception of your products, and also see for you, you can also begin to look at the effectiveness of what you've invested in or the investments that you've made. Another way which we've also experimented in the past is also making a level of correlation with timing, right? So if you're having other marketing activities going alongside, you can start with the PR efforts for the first 1-2 weeks, and then you can also measure that even before you move into the next level. I'll just pause here. Yes, so that would be my take.
Thank you, Emeka. So let me just throw in the second question for you. There's one thing that I have learned being a PR professional is as prepared as you can be. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can't fully predict how people will receive your campaign, receive your product launch, will receive the things that you're putting out there. I'd like to ask you, how do you adjust your measurement strategies for different types of PR campaigns? Example, brand awareness versus product launch.
Yes, thank you for that question. I think the previous speaker also did speak to this a bit, but I would say there's real value in actually monitoring real-time engagement, right? That way you constantly begin to understand the immediate reactions. You begin to understand how the sentiments are, what people are saying, and then begin to make those necessary adjustments, right? So for example, for awareness, you're gauging instantly what the public reaction is to your messaging, and that can even help you, adjust it, accordingly. For a product launch, like you asked, for example, you can also use data depending on where your outlet is for that launch. If you, for example, you're pushing sales through a website, you can also sort of monitor the performance and then begin to optimize what the promotional activity could look like or how it could be better, and then make that improvement on the fly, right? Another could also be depending on your understanding or your level of understanding of the audiences or the audience segments that you're trying to connect with or to reach out with. You can also segment them in different demographics and see how these different audiences are responding, and then you can also adjust based on that as well. And like I mentioned earlier, you can also do real-time feedback and try to really get what the customers or your prospects are saying or the conversations that they're having, and then use learnings from that to improve. I think ultimately for me is real-time listening, because of how quick, how fast-paced things are today with AI, with different kinds of technology, is really critical to monitor on the go and optimize on the fly as well.
Thank you so much, Emeka. I hope our audience, you're having a good time. You're picking a few things from all of this submissions so far. We're going to delve into the Q&A session. If you have a question, if you have a contribution, very quickly, please raise your hand to activate your speaker button, and then you can ask the question. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Any questions, contributions? Hi, Stephen. Stephen, I want you to give us a question, a contribution. Stephen Nase, I'm putting you on the spot.
have a question. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. So my name is Muyiwa. My question is to Michaela. She's still. So I'm quite familiar with meltwater, and I think some of the challenges I experienced, particularly in this region, is limitations with listening across some platforms, particularly meta platforms. While you get a lot of data from the web and from Twitter due to the ease in the plugins and all that. Getting your analytics from meta platforms has been a challenge. At least a year or two ago when I used the platform. Has that been overcome now? Is there a solution around that now? And I'd really like to know that. Thanks.
Hi, Mayura. Yeah, great question. It's a really difficult time in the world because we're on a balance between having immediate access to everything and POPI and GDPR compliance. So unfortunately, there was something called the Cambridge Analytica scandal that Meta experienced, whereby people unfortunately rigged elections and voting through tracking what people were doing on Facebook. So as much as what we're allowed to track on Facebook, and it's not just Meltwater, it's all our competitors, there's certain limitations. So you can only track public pages, you can't track private pages, and that's to avoid obviously any privacy issues. I think it's a very similar thing with LinkedIn at the moment, to something we're actually struggling with more because a lot of B2B companies need LinkedIn information as well. And LinkedIn is completely private in essence. So it's something that we're actively working on across the industry. As I mentioned, not just us, but several of our competitors. We've all come together to say that they need to allow us a little bit more oversight, but still something, it's a lot better than what it used to be. But unfortunately, it's due to privacy restrictions that we can't always access every page or every opinion, every post.
Thank you very much. That's quite clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Muyiwa. Thank you, Michaela. Any more questions? Yes, Priscilla. Priscilla wants to ask a question. Priscilla Nanaya from Poma Emisa wants to ask a question. Or she has a hand up.
Okay. Bridget, since you put me on the spot, if she's not ready, can I just say one or two things?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry I couldn't pick earlier. I've got my assistants here with me. I'm multitasking. All right. So I guess first off, I think great job, Michaela, Josephine, my buddy, and everyone. This has been really, really good. I just wanted to emphasize something that Josephine said, that in a digital age, you don't have to wait till the end of a campaign to report on performance. There are three words I often use: monitor, measure, and optimize performance. And let's do that. And I like how Josephine put it. Right from day one, once you launch your campaign, you can start monitoring and use the data you're getting to optimize performance. I think that's the key. And with tools like Meltwater and every other tool that we have, you can see performance in real time. There's no reason why, like we used to do back in the day, you run a campaign, you have to wait till the end and then go and interview people to see how the campaign is doing. Today, in real time, you can see it. So let's use the data that's available. Let's use the tools and make our campaigns work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasai. We have in the queue, we have Priscilla, and then we have Philip Doku. So Priscilla, if you're ready.
Good evening.
Hi, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having this section. And I must say that it is always important that we PR know our measurements and then the ROIs. Often we fight with the marketers, we fight with the advertisers. When they are saying they are driving sales, we say we don't know what we are doing. But then we manage reputation and then relationship. When they say that they are driving sales again, we can also say that we are measuring media mentions, we are measuring brand sentiment, we can measure our end media coverages and all that. So, as a suggestion, I want to say that thank you so much for this session and it's really helping. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you so much. I think we have Philip next, and then there's Nana.
Hi, good evening. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Sure, thank you. I think this session has been insightful, and I've learned a lot about PR. I'm actually new to PR. I am originally not a PR person. I am an engineering person, but then I decided to try my hands on PR and see how I can fare as well. So mine is simply, as a new PR enthusiast, how do I navigate the complex space and how do I become a successful PR person, even if it's for like PR in engineering? So how can I be successful in such endeavor? Thank you.
Thank you. Who's gonna take this? First of all, welcome. Welcome to PR. We are from different backgrounds. Some people had a straight route. Some of us went on round in circles and we finally made it here. So I'm welcoming you to quote unquote the crazy. It's fun, it's a lot of work. You have to be creative in your approach to everything and strategic. So welcome aboard. Will one of our panelists answer his question, please?
Can I actually take this one?
Sure.
Something that's very interesting. I studied physiotherapy, so I have no role in what I'm doing here tonight. If you want to look at degree, and I think it's so
Yeah.
important to highlight. It's such an old school method of thinking that you have to do everything the right way. I think
Yeah.
what really stands out always is someone that's willing to go the extra mile. So love your craft, love your job, and make sure you stay on top of it. If you're going to work in the world of PR comms and marketing, you've got to live PR comms and marketing. You've got to
Yeah.
absolutely take it in. And if there's a trend going on TikTok and you don't know about it, you've missed the boat. And that's where your competitors get an advantage, and that's where you miss out on strategy and you're left behind. So I think from someone who comes from a sporting background and is incredibly competitive, it's what I really enjoy the most about PR comms and marketing. It's an incredibly competitive space. It's incredibly fast paced and it's exciting. It's innovative. So if you do what you're doing now, you will only succeed. Take every opportunity that's given to you, absorb everything like a sponge, and make sure that you use your network around you. It's something Africa is incredible at, is networking and relying on your network. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It literally is one of the best industries to work in because of how it is constantly evolving.
Thank you, Michaela. Next, we have Nana B, and then we have Hanifa. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It has been an insightful discussion. My question will be about the ethics around measuring and evaluating your PR campaign. So, for instance, it could be that you set out your strategies, your tactics, and perhaps the results coming in is not uh, as a result of the strategies that you set out, the goals. Or it could be that there is a failure in your campaign. However, another set of initiative, or not even initiative, randomly, something is contributing to your success. I want to ask the panelists, what do you do in such a situation? How do you come across or think through reporting to your team? Because you know that at the end of the day, your success or your failure will determine the budget you receive next. So what do you do? Do you say, go out there, make sure that it is looking all nice, say the truth, or you try to at least, because at the end of the day, it is your effort that is contributing to the whole success. But it is not really about that goals you set out. What do you do in such a situation?
Um, can I can I jump in? Nana, I think I'd want to remind you of the ethics of comms. And I think one of the main things, one of our main pillars as comms people is honesty, providing accurate and truthful information. And so there's actually nothing wrong, especially if you're monitoring and evaluating and like Nana added optimizing. You would have noticed that at the very beginning, right? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with noticing that, okay, my taxes are not working. There's somebody else or another institution that's actually contributing to the success. Why don't I adjust my plan and maybe collaborate with these people so that maybe we can make more impact? And in doing so, you're not just like waiting till the end to go report to your bosses that actually there was nothing I did, it wasn't about anything I did. But you would report to them that while monitoring, and that's actually a plus because they would know that you started a campaign and it didn't just go back to sleep. You were actively monitoring. While monitoring, this is what we discovered. And so we changed our plans, we collaborated with these people, and through that collaboration, this is what we were able to come up with. So, bottom line, I just really want to remind us about the ethics, like what we stand for, honesty. And I mean, don't get first of all, don't be scared. Don't let the fear drive you to do something or be go tell lies, because then when you start lying, you have to continue telling more lies. There's so much that you can do, especially if you keep monitoring. There's actually an advantage. There's something that you can actually take from the external contributor that you notice, and you can actually do better, I think, with your company.
Thank you, Josephine. I think it's the next person is Hanifa.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone that has shared their insights so far. This session is very, very timely for me. So I have like two questions. The first one is, I know I took note of the ways to measure campaign efforts. I took note of the qualitative ones, and then for the quantitative method, I took note of. I had Google Analytics and Meltwater. I just wanted to ask if there are other tools that one can explore, both free and paid. And then my second question is for like in a case where maybe you get to plan a series of appearances on radio for an organization, how do you particularly go about measuring the impact of that, especially maybe when the objective is generally to just raise awareness of a particular initiative or whatever focus is for the organization at that point in time? So how do you go about measuring or you know um showcasing the results to the stakeholders that, okay, this appearances on these stations, this is what it resulted to? Or how do you go about tracking? I think that's really summary for my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanifa. Please who's gonna take up this one?
Okay, so I'd take I think for the first question, I know Michaela is here, so there's Meltwater, there are other platforms as well, like Hootsuite, I'm sure,
Session.
Talkwater and the likes. I'm sure she would also have other tools that you can use. But just speaking to your second question, which is how looking at how you measure the impact of your PR efforts on radio. Say you want to your objective is to drive awareness for something. There are different ways that you can do it, depending on, for example, even the radio station, right? So let's say, for example, you're running your campaign in a particular region, so you're prioritizing a regional radio station, right? You can look at listener metrics in terms of who are the listeners, where are they based. You can also look at, call to action responses. So, for example, depending on what you're doing on radio, you can also, give out phone numbers or SMS calls or WhatsApp numbers or things like that. And that you can use that to track response rate and how the listeners also engage, to ensure that, to be clear on what the who the listeners are or how they're engaging. If you're also driving traffic through that radio program to either in store, for example, you can also track when people are coming into the store, how many people were able to, are coming into that store, through the radio show, and other things like engagement with the radio host. So typically, even with the radio stations, you'd also have specific ways that they have tested and tried that they prefer to use to track. So you would always typically would align with that. But generally, these are, just some effective ways that you can quickly measure when you're using mass channels like radio.
Thank you, Emeka. I think Nasser is back on. So, yes, let's hear you, please.
Hi, Bridget. Yeah, thank you, Bridget. First one, just to add to what just been said in response to the last question. You can't fake it and you can't rig it. Like we say in Ghana, if you try to cheat, the fundamentals will expose you. So don't try to deceive your bosses or your clients if the campaign is not doing well. You safely put it right. If you are monitoring and you're measuring in real time, report back to the client or your bosses as early as possible that the campaign issues. Look into how you can address those so you don't get to the end and say the campaign failed. So that's the one. I also like what Emeka just said. One of the things I can advise you to do is that don't do engagement and isolation. In fact, these is most radio stations, the always treat. Okay? So if you connect online with offline that way, you be able to also see the engagement online in real time. And then also make that piece of content, the stream, make it available for playback. So for example, I will tell clients, if you're going to have an engagement at a radio station, add the clip. You can put it back on the and I will say, try to connect to call to action. Example, in my dirty in Josephine case, might be a report that you publish, okay? And they're saying that, oh, you go to radio agreement, say you can say go to this website and download the report, and then give a code that's linked to the radio appearance, so you can see where the downloads are coming from.
Thank you, Nana. Clients. I dare say that the hardest conversation you can have as a PR professional is having measure. Hi, any more questions?
Hi, my name is Michael. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Michael Bruce. Nice to hear from you.
Nice to hear from you as well. Quick one to the Meltwater rep. I just want to find out from her, why is Meltwater still using AVE for measuring media value?
If I tell you I've been trying to tell clients to leave it alone, I've been telling clients won't leave it alone. So unfortunately, we have to keep doing what our clients keep asking of us. And that is obviously changing globally, not only in Africa, but we've tried to move away from it so much. But I think also in Africa, it's a metric that a lot of companies use and won't move away from. So if marketing comms professionals use it and we don't have it on our system, it provides a problem for them. So that's why currently we still use it. But hopefully in the near future, we will drop it because I think it's an incredibly unreliable metric and it really does change based on industry and country.
Yes, it does. Because I'm in Europe, I'm using Meltwater, and I have read, I've been into conferences with other PR folks and all that, and I don't know if I should drop it. If you guys don't change quickly, I have to drop it because AVE is old school now.
Out of interest, what would you be wanting to track instead?
I'm tracking everything, but I want the the value. The value is critical to me because that's
The
more
earned
of a
media
return
value,
of
the
investment.
EMV.
Yes, the end media, yes.
But it should be available on the platform.
It is it's on the platform. I see it.
Yeah.
I see it on my monthly analysis. But I'm saying that why are you still using that? You should come up with another measurement, a way of measuring the end media value.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely something I'll take back to the team. But unfortunately, like I said, when marketing professionals request certain metrics from us, we have to have them on the platform. So based on our ability, we try to have EMV, AVE, and everything that is available. But for, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, EMV links more closely to your social, where AVE links more to your print and broadcast, which is a traditionally more difficult metric to track. And I think because certain companies and industries are still very print and broadcast heavy, AVE will still be prevalent for a while until we're able to move away from that and everyone has access to social.
Please do something about it before the year ends because there are other service providers on my neck. So
absolutely, I will push it forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I think that we've had an insightful conversation today. We've had good discussion. We've had great insights from the experts that we brought on board. I'm so grateful to all of you for staying throughout this session. I'd like to thank Global Media Alliance for this event. It's not easy bringing together the best you can find on a day like this, on a Friday evening. I hope that what we've been able to share today would help you on your journey as a PR student, as a PR professional at entry level, managerial level, top management, wherever you are in your career. We're grateful to you. As we conclude this very interesting discussion on PR measurements and ROI, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude again to all of you. I want to encourage you all to stay connected and continue the conversation on social media pages of Global Media Alliance. On Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, please follow the page. Please continue to talk about this, ask questions. You can reach out to the panelists, you can DM them, ask questions. Josephine, I know, is always ready to give you answers. Emeka, my leader, thank you. Michaela, thank you so much. There are a lot more events coming up, including the masterclasses on sustainability and AI. There will also be events around tourism and political communications. And then the main summit on July 16th. Let's keep the momentum going and delve deeper into the crucial topics shaping our industry. A special thank you again to Global Media Alliance for entrusting me with this opportunity to lead this important dialogue. Thank you all and have a good evening.